Shishimara's divine grace, founder of ISKCON, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda ki, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki, Their most merciful Lordship Sri Hare Kṛṣṇa ki, Sri Jagannath, Sri Baladev Maya Subhadra ki, Sri Nathaji, Sri Balagopal ki, Sri Sri Gaur Nitai ki, Nitai Gaur Prema. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Lord and Spirit of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is gone.
That is the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Oh, this is... Oh, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Yes.
Okay. The marker was in...
Marker was there for...
The marker was on chapter 8. Let's see the other marker. Oh, we're in text 3?
Yes.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tojayamudiraye Nasta Prayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, Text 3. Ajaharashva Medhams Sin Aparashva Medhams Trin Gangayam Puri Dakshinam Gangayam Puri Dakshinam Saradvatam Gurum Kritva Saradvatam Gurum Kritva Deva Yatraksi Gochara Deva Yatraksi Gochara Ajaharashvamedam Strin Gangayam Buridakshinan Saradvatam Gurum Kritva Deva Yatrakshi Gochara Ajaharashvamedam Strin Gangayam Buridakshinan Shraddhabhatam Gurum Kritva Deva Yatrakshi Gochara. Please chant.
Ajaharasvamedam strin
Ajaharashvamedam Strin Gangayam Buridakshinan Saradvatam Gurum Kritva Deva Yatrakshi Gochara Ajaharashvamedam Strin Gangayam Buridakshinan Saradvatam Gurum Kritva Deva Yatrakshi Gochara Ajaharashvamedam Strin Gangayam Buridakshinan Saradvatam Gurum Kritva Deva Yatrakshi Gochara. Ajahara perform Ashvamedans, horse sacrifices. Trin, 3. Gangayam, the bank of the Ganges. Bhuri, sufficiently. Dakshina, rewards. Saradvatam, unto Kripacharya. Guru, spiritual master. Kritva, having selected. Deva, the demigods. Yatra, wherein. Akshi, eyes. Gochara, within the purview. Ajahasvamiram strin gangayam buridakshinam saradvatam gurum kritva devayatraksi gochara. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace of ācāryas Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupāda. Maharaj Parikshit, after having selected Kripacharya for guidance as his spiritual master, performed 3 horse sacrifices on the banks of the Ganges. These were executed with sufficient rewards for the attendants. And at these sacrifices, even the common man could see the demigods. Please repeat. Maharaj Parikshit, after having selected Kripacharya for guidance, as his spiritual master, performed 3 horse sacrifices on the banks of the Ganges. These were executed with sufficient rewards for the attendants. And at these sacrifices, even the common man could see demigods. Maharaj Parikshit, after having selected Kripacharya for guidance as his spiritual master, performed 3 horse sacrifices on the banks of the Ganges. These were executed with sufficient rewards for the attendants. And at these sacrifices, even the common man could see demigods. Purport. It appears from this verse that interplanetary travel by the denizens of higher planets is easy. In many statements in Bhagavatam, we have observed that the demigods from heaven used to visit this earth to attend sacrifices performed by influential kings and emperors. Herein also we find that during the time of the horse sacrifice ceremony of Maharaj Parikshit, the demigods from other planets were visible, even to the common man, due to the sacrificial ceremony. The demigods are not generally visible to common men, because the Lord is not visible. But as the Lord, by his causeless mercy, descends to be visible to the common man, similarly, the demigods also become visible to the common man by their own grace. Although celestial beings are not visible to the naked eyes of the inhabitants of this earth, it was due to the influence of Maharaj Parikshit that the demigods also agreed to be visible. Kings used to spend lavishly during such sacrifices, as a cloud distributes rains. Cloud is nothing but another form of water, or in other words, the waters of the earth transform into clouds. Similarly, the charity made by the kings in such sacrifices are but another form of the taxes collected from the citizens. But as the rains fall down very lavishly and appear to be more than necessary, the charity made by such kings also seems to be more than what the citizen needs. Satisfied citizens will never organize agitation against the king, and thus there was no need in changing the monarchical state. Even for such a king like Maharaj Parikshit, there was need of a spiritual master for guidance. Without such guidance, one cannot make progress in spiritual life. The spiritual master must be bona fide, and one who wants to have self-realization must approach and take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master to achieve real success. Om Jnana-tamanandasya Gyanandina Shalakaya Chakshushun Militam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So these, what would be today called alien beings, these demigods have bodies that by choice can be seen or not seen. Now, it's peculiar to us that we have outright revelation of interaction with demigods from the heavenly planets right here in this verse, showing this to us. But even more so is revealed the abilities that they have to be able to allow human beings to see them or not. So here we have a count as well. Śrīla Prabhupāda says at Mangalarti, 33 million demigods are present. So just as we see their interest in the sacrifices of Maharaj Parikshit being made emperor of the world due to the fact that he was performing these sacrifices, they were observing. Now, as we discussed earlier, and as I want to repeat this verse, because this is to me so glorious, because see, if in fact these Ashwamedha sacrifices are considered by demigods to be such that attract them, then what to speak? Listen to this verse. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, from written by Śrīla Prabhupāda Goswami. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Koti Ashvamedha Eka Kṛṣṇa Nama Sama Ye kahi sapasandi tande tarayam. One who says that 10 million Ashwamedha sacrifices, Jai Shri Jai Jai are equal to the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna, is undoubtedly an atheist. He is sure to be punished by Yamaraj. So see the value in the chanting of this mahā-mantra that Lord Krishna, through the form of Lord Caitanya, has given us. And so it would seem obvious if the demigods are attracted to see what one Ashwamedha sacrifice can do, then how much more they are observing the effects that this mahā-mantra is having upon the world. They're observing all these activities of this kind. Now, I want to go to the songs that we sing at Mangalarti, because contained in these verses also is a realization of the value of the attendance at Mangalarti. Because as I said, it is such a sacrifice that the demigods are attending. Krishna. Krishna. Oh, we gotta find them all the prayers. Congregation, standing prayers. Anyone know the name of the Mangalarti prayers? What is it? Samsara Dada. I should know it. Mangalacharna, page 10. Mangalacharna, page 10. Mangalacharna, page 10. Okay. One day, that's not Mangalacharna, that's not the one. Krishna. Okay, let's look at Mangalacharna. Here we are. See Guru Astika, that's what it is.
Gurvastika.
Shri Guru Astika. So the spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence.
It's what samsara dava.
What's that?
It is samsara dava.
Yes, this is samsara dava prayer. This is the first prayer. So this goes right along with this verse, revealing it as a sacrifice. The spiritual master is receiving the mercy being poured out just the same way as when a king is performing the sacrifice, he is raining his blessings upon all the inhabitants, and in this case with Maharaj Parikshit, upon the entire planet. He is giving the benedictions. And this is what most religions would call a ritualistic ceremony. But in this case, it is not a ceremony specific to the individual participants, but it is a sacrifice for the benefit of the entire world, of the inhabitants of the entire world. And then, Mahaprabhu, Kirtana Nitra Gita Varitra Madhyan Manasora Singha, chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments, the spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, the spiritual master, he's saying, as recognizing all those who would come in the future, right? But taking into consideration the fact that these demigods have, since time immemorial, been in their positions glorifying God by their pious activities like this. So what position are they in as spiritual masters in relationship to the amount or level of advancement we have made to this point? Because they have been alive for tens of thousands of years before we even manifested in this form that we are now in. So we can't put the demigods in a lower place than what they belong in our minds, because we have to respect the demigods as well, that they are in a position Krishna has put them in, because properly situated in those positions, they are holding very responsible positions in the universe. And Lord Caitanya, by this practice, is revealing the means of going back to where there's no more wars and all these things going on in the material universe. But it is singing, because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion. This is what is being spoken of in what I keep referring to in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This experiencing the mellows of the love that Krishna is giving to us at the time we're involved in these various activities within his mind. Sometimes his bodily hairs stand on end, and he feels quivering in his body and tears flowing from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. These verses are a description of the divine excellence of pure love of God interacting with the devotee. That's what this is all about. Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingara Dana Mandira Marjanara. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship. of Shri Radha and Kṛṣṇa. And he also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship of the Lord. See, these activities being described, which we normally think of as mundane activities, cleaning the floor, cleaning the temple. No, but it is that this is a qualification that they are revealing that Kṛṣṇa has given them the position of being able to be him there and perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Kṛṣṇa 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasad, he is satisfied. We talked about before, we get a satisfaction from preparing the meal that keeps us from even desiring to be fed, because it's such a fulfilling, satisfying experience. I offer my respectful obeisances unto such a master. See, too, many times in worship of many forms of religion and ritualistic practices, they are believed to be practicing for activities that only take place in the heavenly planets, right? They're preparing for their heavenly. But here we have revelation in even our singing and our form of worship, giving us realization of the application of the daily activities we're taking part in now that are also of the same nature of that spiritual activity that Kṛṣṇa himself is revealing is the highest activities to be engaged in by the living entity. The spiritual master is very dear because he's expert in assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisances unto the Lord's feet of such a spiritual master. So these activities that we are taking part in here, similarly in Vrindavan to this day, Kṛṣṇa and Radha and Kṛṣṇa, still visiting there, yet they leave no remnants though in that place. Those that think themselves qualified, who try to see without qualification, have to suffer. We don't jump ahead of our position the Guru has given us. Yasya prasara bhagavad prasara, yasya prasara nagati katopi. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord, because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Kṛṣṇa. So see, we are, by taking part in these activities, we are continuously allowing our minds to absorb the etiquette, the process, the ritualistic ceremonies in such a way that they become part of us, part of our lives, just part of our daily activities. We don't take thought of whether I'm going or not, just go. And it's the same way in the spiritual world. They don't have to think about getting to the spiritual world. They're already there. And so we can see these activities that we're being given. See, this verse is also revealing to us an aspect of Krishna's body also not being visible to the kind of eyes that we have now. And yet, as we can see by him giving the ability to see the demigods, he can allow us to see him as well. And it makes it very easy for us when we are taking the form that we are to worship Krishna in the form of the deity. Then it standardizes in our minds Krishna's form, and then enables to see from an authorized perspective that he has himself established of what his form is, and then we're not left to conjecture. And when we make an honest comparison in descriptions being given about the person of God or the nature of God's body, for example, in Christian teachings, the indwelling personality or consciousness of God is described as the Holy Ghost. This is the terminology used by these early translators of the Bible. Bible means the book. But this is evidence that they themselves were not realized to know God is not a Holy Ghost. And the term ghost is used to describe a subtle body that is without the ability to use and manipulate the material energy to its own satisfaction. And so it is made of a subtle substance, much like the mind is also in the dream state. The mind has the ability to manifest itself as a subtle substance, but it is not a ghost form, it's a mind form. And that mind form, which has developed over periods of incarnations of living beings, millions and millions of births now, we get to the stage where we can actually come to the realization of the supreme controller of everything, the origin of everything, and that being, that source being love itself. What the human being is brought to the state of consciousness of is the energy, the supreme power of love. Love is, as Krishna describes the Vedas, describing himself. All that is being described about Krishna is also describing, because his nature is love, describing aspects of Krishna's personality. And so we see the combined forms of Srimati Radharani and Krishna in Lord Caitanya as that which Krishna is really revealing to us to be his perfect nature, which he does not reveal to those, even on the battle of Kurukshetra. They may have some known them to be boyfriend and girlfriend in the village they lived in. But to have the very confidential, innermost understandings of the fact that because Lord Caitanya had not come yet, we are being given an understanding beyond that which human beings had been brought to the point of spiritual development of at that point in history. Because even though this is the most fallen age, Krishna is giving to his beloved believers the most powerful forms of knowledge available to conquer the forces that are going to be made more and more prominent on the earth as this evil age continues to exist. I was saying the other day I've been using the AI, they call it artificial intelligence. But you can use this just as you would look up information or data, but it condenses the time required because it's all at their fingertips. They can search through libraries, the whole Library of Congress. In a matter of moments, these computers work that fast. So any questions you have pertaining to any data human beings have acquired to this point that has been put on the internet is accessible through a simple question process with this artificial intelligence. So this morning, in my quest to know, I was inquisitive, wanting to know about the ratio of the ice forms on the Earth's north and south poles versus the entirety of the planet itself. And then I realized what I was asking the intelligence was to make a comparison of the ice to the totality of the substance of the Earth. But that does not give us a true perspective of what the ice melt would have the effect of covering, because the ice melt is only going to affect the exterior surface, the land surface area that is mostly exposed, which is the area, right? So then when I asked to make a comparison of the mass and the total area of the external surface, then I came to find out that, see, in comparison, those ice continents, we could call them, make up 0.00000 some percent of the Earth's total surface. But when compared to the exterior surface area of only the exterior surface, then that gives us the ability to understand. The computer is revealing by current data that this melting, and I'm hoping it leans in this direction, will take thousands of years. My argument with that is that once the melting point is reached, that boom, the whole thing could fall into the oceans. But when analyzed from that perspective then, in comparison to the land mass, it could totally submerge all the little islands of all the oceans and leave 9 islands. Does that sound familiar? 9 islands, Navadvip, which is what the Earth was once known as. So now this thing is starting to make more and more sense. If the Earth was, and before that it was known as 7 islands, yeah. So see, this thing, all the pieces of the puzzle are falling together. And when these things froze over, then they revealed land masses that weren't previously visible. So here we have another form of revealing that which is invisible grossly. And so we see by this verse that there are forms of gross matter that are subtle, but there is also spiritual substance that is more subtle than all of it. Intelligence being, well, no, false ego being the most subtle in the entire material universe. But see, the body of Kṛṣṇa is even more subtle than that. And then subtlety takes on another dimension of meaning as well when we look into the innermost, what Krishna is calling confidential information, because we see unfolding with the implications given by Krishna's statements are things having to do with the future, things having to do with the inside movings of nature itself and the laws of God acting out karma. And then from this perspective, that living beings are in this universe able to take a journey anywhere they want to go in the universe, then these lifespans, in effect, become like a visit for a little time. We're going to spend a few years on the earth this time. The next time we'll spend a few years on another planet, another time. So then we can get a perspective on how Krishna looks at expansions of his own personality different than we do. And so we can also have a more open and understanding perspective of how we got to where we are and where we need to get to, and what's keeping us from getting to that destination at the present moment. Because we're holding on still, holding on to things in this world, and that is done by the mind. And so the only way to control the mind is by the chanting. So why the demigods are taking so much importance in observing these changes is because of all the changes that are taking place for the good. They have realization of that it's coming ultimately from Krishna's potency that he has put in sound vibration of these holy names. We don't see how it's directly connected easily. But as we make progress on the path, we can see that when you chant the mahā-mantra, you're breaking through your own false ego, which is playing a small part of the totality, though, of the false ego that's covering the entire universe. And see, we have to look from this perspective. Why? Because it's revealed in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna is going to answer this prayer, Murari Gupta. He's going to save the whole universe. But it'll be a generation or 2 or 3, maybe, I don't know how many. But Krishna doesn't lie. And he didn't give Yudhisthira the advice to lie. It wasn't a lie that Ashwatthama was dead. It just wasn't the Ashwatthama Duryodhana would be thinking about. We have so much value to gain by taking part in any one of these spiritual activities, being advised. And as devotees who live in the temple, we have so much freedom to be able to worship, come here and sing any part of the day, get relief, maybe anxieties we may be having. Maybe we don't like the weather outside. Well, we have Krishna's association and Krishna in the form of the deity to give us realization of the fact that he's here in response to Śrīla Prabhupāda's request to come here and accept our service. And in effect, we can say, because Śrīla Prabhupada was, before he came here, it was revealed that his life would make and provide a process, give this process to the whole world in such a way that they could live all under the shelter of God's house. And the institution then that he established as an international institution in regards to the cooperation with men's laws to be recognized as such throughout the world will eventually enable it as a foundation that Śrīla Prabhupada set in that way, be recognized by the world as that contribution to humanity that gave humanity a future, that enabled common men to see demigods coming and going. This is going to happen. Krishna's devotees are going to be so full of Krishna's knowledge. And when this planet is transformed, then we have evidence by detailed description what the earth was like inside the confines of these cities of Kṛṣṇa. And this is the knowledge Kṛṣṇa wants to give us to be able to enable the planet to be returned to its original glory, the pristine state, that Mother Bhumi. Kṛṣṇa wants to return her to her youthfulness that she was in before men started manipulating her for their purposes. And then, when Mother Bhumi's fruitfulness is allowed to bloom on the earth, every breath gives life-giving experience of holiness. We smell, Narad Muni says, when you enter the temple and you smell that glorious aroma, that fragrance, that's Kṛṣṇa's body. That's an aspect of Kṛṣṇa's presence that's emanating from his own body. See, Mother Bhumi's body is much like Kṛṣṇa's body. She emanates these fragrances for the benefit of all. So when we offer them to Kṛṣṇa, then not only do they give us material benefit, then they give us eternal benefit. Because then we are able, the consciousness that we are experiencing life with is able to be exposed to that reality and that substance of reality that is of an eternal nature, which develops appreciation in us, which develops the kind of character we're supposed to have, to be able to enter into those most glorious, sacred places where Kṛṣṇa, the person of Kṛṣṇa, is revealed in every aspect of the rituals that are being performed, of the offerings that are being given, of the heart's desires, the love that the devotees have in giving the offerings. Every aspect of the temple is meant to remind us about the glorious nature of Kṛṣṇa's person, Kṛṣṇa's personality. One day we'll be able to see him face to face. And Kṛṣṇa can give us eyes to see him here, as we see in this verse. He can give us eyes to see the demigods, he can give us eyes to see himself. He gave Arjuna on the battlefield the eyes to see. Yeah. And Arjuna begged to be returned, even as glorious as it was to be able to see. We're not able to see the completeness of Kṛṣṇa in these physical bodies that we've been reduced to, encompassed by, and enslaved by, become servants of. We live to please the senses of the body by the experiences we've had with our interactions with the material energy. But now if we turn our energies towards Kṛṣṇa and make him our goal of life, make satisfying Kṛṣṇa's desires the goals of our life, and want nothing else, just that we might find Kṛṣṇa smiling upon the lives that we have dedicated to his cause. Just to see Kṛṣṇa smile. What glorious interaction. One day I saw Srinathji. When I looked upon his face, I felt like it was a big, strong magnet. I was just frozen there. I didn't want to go anywhere else. His face was so glorious and just drawing me to him. I never knew what beauty was. Still, I don't know. Śrīla Prabhupāda says, what we see and choose out of women on this planet to be elected as the most beautiful and gorgeous on the planet. He says the demigoddesses make them look like frogs. The demigods, the beauty of the demigods, make the most beautiful women on this planet look like frogs. So what can we say? So That's the nature of the human bodies we've been put into, only we don't know that. By the standards we've, to this point, established in our minds as to what beauty is. But when we get off the mental platform and away from being controlled by the senses of the body, then Krishna will enable us to see things as they are. And then we'll really come to appreciate what Krishna has given us. I was realizing this morning with this verse, revealing how powerful Krishna's name is. At the recitation of Krishna's name, more powerful than millions of Ashwamedha sacrifices. And I'm realizing, wow. But I look around, and there's 2, 3 devotees in the temple chanting. And who's realizing the value? Who's realizing? How many of us are realizing the value? Do we know how valuable it is to have Krishna's name in our minds as the all-powerful source of everything? I want to know the reality of that in my mind. I want to know person of Krishna, in the love of Krishna, so I can give it to others in a true way. Not to become famous or anything like that. Not to become wealthy. Not to become attracted by people. No, but so Krishna's name might be glorified. So Lord Caitanya, so it can be known who Lord Caitanya is as the golden avatar, the giver, the source of the energy that's going to transform this planet. No one else can do that. People are in question of whether a supreme consciousness created the universe. But wait and see. Wait and see. Krishna's going to reveal some things to everyone. As it says in this verse, the common man. It's not talking about us. It's actually offense to call the guru a common man. Same thing with devotees who have been given Krishna's name. Offense to call them common. So see, here's coming my answer to my question, Krishna. We have this internet, right? Ninth offense. Don't give the glories of the name to the unfaithful, atheistic demons. Well, how can we avoid that? We're going on the internet. How can we say, oh, there's not going to be any demons to read or to see what I'm putting on there? Here comes the answer. Krishna transforms their minds to be able to see by the power of the chanting of his names, by the realization that devotees get to be able to deliver Krishna's name to the world, to those people, of everyone that we come in contact with. If we can give them the deliverance that comes automatically from the recitation of the 2 syllables, Krishna, 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 and thereby revealing our relationship to him, and thereby giving to them that taste, which if they can, with their spiritual senses, see. You're not going to get spiritual senses to use by using the material senses and hoping to obtain pleasure through the material senses, because that is an alternative source of pleasure. And it is a limited source of pleasure. So you have one or the other. The Bible puts it this way. You can serve one master or the other. You want to serve God or you want to serve mammon, your body. So we serve one or the other. And the ability to serve Krishna comes from singing Krishna's names. Like, you want to know your boss, you want to work for the boss, then you have to come to know who the boss is, right? You have to meet the boss. So this is what the mantra does for us. introduces us to who Kṛṣṇa is and the relationship he has prepared us for with him, that he's preparing us for as an eternal place in his most personal dwelling. That's what this International Society of Kṛṣṇa Consciousness is offering to every human being who will take it to heart and put into practice this chanting of Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare. And take a viewpoint. Every day is better and closer to Kṛṣṇa than the day before. And therefore, realizations will come that are ever increasing and ever giving us a viewpoint of reality, closer and closer to the potential observance of that which is eternal. So any comments, any questions, any realizations?
Question. Why demigods have to come to the earth to take birth and then to go back to Kṛṣṇa?
Yes, good question. Why demigods have to come to the earth? They're already in the heavenly planet. And see, this brings out as well the distinction between the result of working pious deeds to gain the result of heaven. And with that attitude, they approach. Even these fire sacrifices, many kings would approach fire sacrifices for power, for control. And if they were of the right heart, they would gain that. But that's their reward for that sacrifice. The devotees are performing a sacrifice not for themselves, but out of obedience to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has explained that this process is a means of getting back to his spiritual dwelling. So the distinction is being made between the results of pious activities aiming at a reward within the material universe, to have a higher position in this material universe where there is more satisfaction to be obtained from the bodies that are obtained there, or that which is totally used for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in spiritual energy, using the spiritual energy of Kṛṣṇa. So that which is given as a result of that, the consciousness that is developed as a result of that, being spiritual consciousness, is the nature of the soul. And the soul's home, the soul's place, is the spiritual world where it came from. But the place that it makes home, when it has the desire to inhabit some realm within this universe, is the reward that it gains with the effort it makes towards that end. And so, with that being the aim of those who are in this battlefield of Kurukshetra, they wanted to gain heaven. And as we see presently on the planet, people who are engaged in battle, for the most part, who are believers on both sides, they are believing that they are going to gain what their concept of heaven is. And for the most part, they all think that's an eternal environment in the highest planetary systems. They call heaven contained within this universal system. And so when their pious activities, they're paying with the acts of 100 years they've performed here for a realm that will give them a reward of about 37,000 years of our years. So in effect, they're getting unlimited, exponentially rewarded for the small amount of effort. We say it's a big amount of effort because it's 100 years here. But in comparison to the amount of time the reward is given by God to the soul that engages in that, it's millions of times over. And so then the reward runs out. It's just like in a store. You have enough money to buy most of what's in the store, but you only have enough for what there is, and then when it runs out, then you've used it, you've eaten it all up. So then, it was revealed when Yudhisthira Maharaj was given a moment's time to smell hell, to smell the fires of hell. Simultaneously, while he was able to see Duryodhana, and Duryodhana was enjoying on the heavenly planets. Simultaneously, while Yudhisthira is smelling hell. And Yudhisthira says, Krishna, what are you doing? Why? I've lived for you. I've been serving you all my life. Why? Duryodhana, here he is, this big nonsense, and he's enjoying like anything. And it is revealed in that conversation that those who perform those pious activities with the hope of getting the reward in heaven, the reward comes first. Okay. The reward comes first. Yudhisthira got the only punishment necessary for him to be reminded. I asked you to say Ashwatthama was dead, and you wouldn't say that. So then he had to smell hell for a moment. But then after that, we see Yudhisthira went back with Kṛṣṇa to the spiritual world. Yeah. By that personal association and by that attitude he had towards Kṛṣṇa, except that one activity. Yeah. So see, the devotees' activities don't run out because the energy they're engaged in is itself an eternal force. Whereas the energy engaged in by one who is hoping to promote that energy, the material energy is an energy and is controlled by three modes. So you can enter into the modes of goodness and get reward for that, to the extent that that mode of goodness is able to reward you, and it's limited. So the three modes of material energy are limited, whereas bhakti is an unlimited force. So that's how there's a difference. And then the person that runs out the pious activities, then suffering comes. And then so then in some places, in some cases, before even a planet like the Earth.
You're given the choice, right? Yamaraja gives the choice whether you want to get it.
First or last. Yeah, and they're thinking, and see, most spiritual teachings are telling them.
First or enjoying first.
Just like if you take up the teachings of Buddha, they're drawn to the light. They are told to go towards the light when they die. And then when they are, just like Yudhisthira was also posed questions at the gate, where there were entrances to be. Yes. And so it's all dependent upon the character we develop that we will answer those questions. And so if we aim towards pleasing Kṛṣṇa with the eternal energy, automatically that energy pulls us back home. And that's Kṛṣṇa, that we are, when we are engaging in his energy, it's not different from him because he's with us and his body is also doing it with us and giving us the ability to do us. So it's by permission that we have the ability to do these acts that Kṛṣṇa is giving us the ability to do that will lead us back to the spiritual world. And it's by absorbing the knowledge to know the difference between that will enable us to more aim towards the eternal goal than to be satisfied with the end result of a heavenly dwelling here that is only made for pleasure till the pious activities run out and for the pleasure of the practitioner, not for the pleasure of the lawmaker. Does that answer the question? I think so. Any other comments, questions?
Thank you very much.
Jai. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai.